Okay, hello everyone. How are you feeling? Oh wow, okay. Little bit. Good evening and thank you everyone for being here with us for watching our film Chup and to participate in something that's never been done before, a screening. My name is Shreya Dhanwantri and I'm in this film. I can't believe that. I can't believe I get to say that. Name, I'm pointing at the name. I still can't believe I get to say that and that this is my film, but about an army of 300 people are responsible for bringing a film together, all of whom believe in the magic of cinema. And tonight we're attempting to have a civilized conversation among people who make that magic and with people who inform us whether that magic is worth our while or not. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce Mr. Bharadwaj Rangan, who happens to be a passionate lover of cinema and a critic, to kick the rest of this evening off. Night is yours.
Yeah, so I have to thank Balki because he tells me I made a movie about critics being murdered, and I think of you as a moderator, and that made me feel very special. So thanks, Balki, for this invitation. I'm going to call the others on the panel. I'm going to first call members of my fraternity. So we know where the lines are drawn. So yes, Sucharita Tyagi, Komal Nahta ji, and is Anupama Chopra is going. She's going to be here soon. I'm going to sit here so that I can see everybody at once. Anyway, so maybe we should just mix it up and so everyone can.
So should we leave one spot?
Yeah.
Tell me that.
Yeah, no, whatever. So, and among the filmmakers, Mr. Anis Bazmi and Rajan DK and Alankrita, is she here? Alankrita Shrivastava? Okay, so 2 minutes. So, do we have enough chairs or?
We need one more.
But Raj and DK come as a team, so let them sit together.
One chair.
So we'll need one for Anu, one for Nangta. I think we're good.
Yeah. And Alankrita, we need one for that.
Yeah,
Oh, she got that. Okay, all right. So let me begin by asking, how excited are the filmmakers about this movie and how excited are the critics about this movie?
Not awkward at all. Not at all awkward.
You get once in a while you got to make a movie like this or watch a film like this where filmmakers are taking on critics directly.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's exciting, super exciting.
Super exciting to kind of.
I'm always excited for every film because whichever film I go for, I go with the impression that it's going to be the biggest blockbuster of my career. So I'm excited, as excited about Chup as I am for any other film. Genuinely.
Right. So, in general, all of you, whether we are filmmakers, when we're growing up and we're watching movies, did you read film criticism that is appeared in the papers, reviews or whatever it is? Did you begin by that? Would you read that and see, Achha, what have they said about this particular movie? How many stars has this movie gotten? Was that a part of the growing up?
Now it is, but I don't think when I was growing up, there were many film critics. Like, also grew up in Andhra Pradesh, so we were watching Telugu films. So whenever a Chiranjeevi film or any other star film came, that's all the motivation you need to go watch it.
Right.
And if you didn't watch it on the first day or the first couple of days, and if your friends tell you it's not good, that's probably when you stop watching
Right.
it. But otherwise, you pretty much watch all the films.
Anupama is here, so please.
Yay, Anu! Anupama Chopra is making an entrance. She's making a point right now, everybody.
Yeah.
Please note.
Yeah, she planned this. She wanted to,
My apologies.
Yes,
I am so sorry. This is so embarrassing. I'm never usually late. Baddy, please go on.
yes. No, please go on.
Oh yeah, no. So that's it. I mean, the whole concept of film critics is something that happened a little later, at least in my life.
Okay.
Like when I went to the States, that's when you start reading reviews, and then it was in the papers. Then it became available on the internet. So now it's more handy, and now I think everybody on Twitter is a reviewer at this point.
Yeah, which kind of brings me to this thing that now that we have, word of mouth coming in through Twitter, what role do critics actually have to do? You have to say.
Oh, for me? Yeah, okay. No, see.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Shall I? Okay. No, I mean, my whole thing about a film reviewer is that a film reviewer is somebody first who loves films, who respects the process of filmmaking, and who's knowledgeable about films. I think these three things become important, right? So unfortunately, like on social media, everybody who has an opinion may not be coming from the right places. That's where you kind of end up looking at critics' reviews, or in some cases, at some critics' reviews who you think, like over years, over many reviews, you think you've grown to respect their opinion, and you kind of, get swayed by that.
मुझे लगता है कि आज जो है इतने ज़्यादा क्रिटिक्स हो गए हैं कि पहले ये था कि एक तो बहुत कम लोग थे और संडे 2-3 दिन पिक्चर के रिलीज़ हो जाते थे, उसके बाद ये उनके रिव्यूज़ आया करते थे। अभी ये है कि कमर्शियली मुझे लगता है बहुत ही नुकसान होता है फिल्मों को अगर ख़राब लिखा जाता है तो, या कम स्टार मिलते हैं। लेकिन अब धीरे धीरे वो, मुझे पर्सनली ऐसा लगता है कि वहाँ तक आ गया है कि अगर बहुत ज़्यादा स्टार्स मिले हैं तो लोग शक से देखते हैं कि ये फिल्म ठीक नहीं होगी। ऐसा लगता है लोगों को, जो एक आम जनता है उनको लगता है अरे इस फिल्म के अंदर बहुत ज़्यादा स्टार्स मिले हैं और ये फिल्म ठीक नहीं होगी। तो ये है, और मुझे लगता है कि ये जो है, जहाँ तक क्रिटिक्स हैं, अगर सही तरह से क्रिटिसाइज कर रहे हैं फिल्म को तो दैट इज़ फाइन, बट उसको रोस्ट करना फिल्म को और फिल्म को एकदम कुछ अजीब कर देना और बड़ी अजीब सी लैंग्वेज में बहुत ही, तो वो मुझे लगता है कि शायद ठीक नहीं है। इसलिए कि ये तो सारी दुनिया जानती है, क्रिटिक भी जानती है कि एक फ़िल्म बनाने में कितना खून पसीना और मेहनत लगती है, और बहुत ही ख़राब पिक्चर बनाने के लिए बहुत तकलीफ़ों से सोचना पड़ता है। तो अच्छी फिल्में जो होती है उसके लिए बहुत ज़्यादा लोग मेहनत करते हैं, काम करते हैं, और जब अपने काम के बारे में उनको ऐसा लगता है तो उनको लगता है कि शायद इन्होंने ये फिल्म नहीं देखी है जो हमने बनाई है, कोई और फिल्म की बात कर रहे हैं लोग।
Anu, you have something to add.
But अनिल जी, ये तो बहुत अक्सर you feel that हम में भी कि sometimes I am the only one who's loved a film. So I think it's such a personal response. Yeah, I agree with you. There has to be. You can't roast. Finally, हम critics हैं, हम trolls नहीं हैं. You have to speak respectfully. But I feel like. पंकज त्रिपाठी ने एक बार कहा था कि फिल्म क्रिटिक्स आर लाइक खाद, फर्टिलाइजर, दे हेल्प सिनेमा ग्रो. सो आई एम होपिंग दैट वी डू दैट.
Did you just call me down?
I did.
Okay. So, no, but I think Komal, when Brahmastra released, or before Brahmastra released, because you just said it is a personal opinion, right?
Yeah.
But you predicted that the film would do very well at a time that there were lots of doubts about the film and things like that. So do you think that it is possible for a critic to have like a finger on the audience's pulse, so to speak?
Here I'd like to say there is a difference between a critic and a film trade analyst. I'm not a film critic. My job is to predict.
But you do write reviews, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there are film trade analysts who write reviews and there are critics who write reviews. Why I'm not a critic is, it's not a critic can say I didn't like this, I loved this, I didn't like this, this is not good, this is not bad, and therefore the film didn't work for me.
Right.
We don't have that luxury. We don't say I. We say probably the public will like this, not like this. And that is why we predict figures. Like in the case of Brahmastra, I said the first weekend should be near about 100 crore. It touched 118. And I said the second, in my video review, I said the first week should stop at 165 crore or thereabouts. It stopped at 163 crore. And I said in 10 days, it will touch the 200 crore mark. It went up to 201. So we specialize in that kind of this. And for that, it is necessary to have a pulse, a finger on the people's pulse. But for critics, I don't think that is necessary because, as Anupama very rightly said, it's such a personal opinion. But we ought to have, otherwise we are not fit for the job.
Right. But if every member of the audience has a personal opinion, how is it possible to have a finger on the pulse?
When we say it will do so much, we're talking about the large mass base.
Okay.
Every film has people who have loved it and people who have not liked it. People who have found it okay, people who have found it great, people who have found... So we talk about considering the budget and how many people may like it, may not like it. So on that basis, we predict. And I
have no sense
that's what I'm
of
saying.
pulse.
No, that's what I'm saying. And a
you
critic
remember?
doesn't need that, doesn't need to. So the sad part, I'll tell you one more thing. The sad part is 99% of the critics or 90% of the critics have become trade analysts. And I don't think they need to do that because a critic is also doing his job or her job, but suddenly now everybody has started saying, I didn't like it and therefore the film won't run. But that is, Anupama doesn't do it. I'm just saying a lot of critics do it, which is not their job.
For me, you remember Sham Shroff, right? The wonderful distributor. He used to say, अगर तुम्हें picture अच्छी नहीं लगे, मुझे पता hit होने वाली है.
Indra Kumar says that about Shabana Azmi. Indra Kumar always says, मैं Shabana जी को first show में बुलाता हूँ, and when she comes out, Shabana जी कैसी लगी? बोलो खराब है, बोलो खराब है, बोलो खराब है. Shabana जी says horrible. ये मेरी film hit है.
Alankrita, please come up on stage.
Yay! Hi.
Hello.
I feel better. There's one person up.
So maybe this would be a good time to welcome you on stage and say, what do you think of critics?
And she's caught unaware. She doesn't know what the others have said.
Yeah, I have no clue.
I think we need them. That's number one. And I think that, personally, what I feel is that when you immediately read something that a critic has written and you feel like, why are they saying that? And so I think immediately sometimes you feel like, oh my God, like why has somebody said this? But I think eventually it helps you later because I think like some of the stuff I think kind of stays and sometimes it sort of helps you look at your work with some perspective because when you're totally in it, I think you can't see it like with a bird's eye view. So I've always felt that in retrospect, a lot of the stuff makes sense. At that moment, of course, sometimes you're like, oh my God, I put in so much effort and no one's getting it. But I think it's fine. I think it's, the moment you make a film, you anyway, put yourself out there, you put your work out there. So just like the audience reacts, I think the critics have to react too, so it's fine.
But I think it's very difficult to judge कि आपको कैसी लग रही है फिल्म की इसलिए मैं आपको एक जो छोटी सी मिसाल अपनी पर्सनल बताऊं कि मैंने एक फिल्म बनाई थी प्यार तो होना ही था तो उसका जो फर्स्ट ट्रायल हुआ था उसमें करीबन 50 लोग थे 50 लोग थे और सबको फिल्म बहुत बुरी लगी थी और बाहर आकर उन्होंने मुझे ये नहीं बोला कि अच्छी है बुरी है उन्होंने बोला ये क्या बनाया है और एक फिल्म मैंने बनाई थी वेलकम तो वेलकम में सारे लोगों को एक ही कंप्लेन था कि यार ये फिल्म में हंसी नहीं आती है एंड बहुत लोग थे उसमें मतलब 100 लोग थे तो जब लोगों को भी हर आदमी का अलग वो है। तो इट इज़ सो डिफिकल्ट टू अंडरस्टैंड एक फिल्म देखकर कि आपको जो लग रही है आप कैसे जज कर सकते हैं कि हाँ ये बिल्कुल करेक्ट है, ये गलत है। जो एक पल्स की बात कर रहे हैं हम, इट इज़ सो डिफिकल्ट टू नो। वो लोग कहते हैं कि भाई ये डायरेक्टर बड़ा अच्छा है, इसको पल्स आ गई है। ही इज़ ऑल्सो नॉट श्योर कि जो फिल्म बना रही है वो लोगों को पसंद आएगी कि नहीं आएगी। तो वो उसका एक जजमेंट है, उसका एक कन्विक्शन है जिसपे वो फिल्म बनाता है। तो इट इज़ सो डिफ़िकल्ट टू अंडरस्टैंड द फिल्म कि नहीं यार ये फिल्म को जो हम लिख रहे हैं कि ये माइनस पॉइंट है, ये प्लस पॉइंट है, क्या वही माइनस पॉइंट और प्लस पॉइंट है, या जो शायद लिख रहे हैं कि जो माइनस पॉइंट है शायद वो प्लस पॉइंट है और जो प्लस पॉइंट है वही माइनस पॉइंट है।
Anis sir, sorry, Bag. May I? Yeah, I know. I just feel like मतलब मैं यहाँ पे बैठी हुई हूँ इस panel पे. Look at me now. Any person, a film critic जो लिख रहा है, they're coming from a place of love for cinema as an art form, as craft. जैसा कोमल कह रहे थे, हम किसी भी मूवी थिएटर में जाते हैं, हम बैठते हैं उस सीट में, लाइट्स डिम होती है, एंड वी वांट टू फॉल इन लव विद एवरीथिंग यू आर शोइंग अस. आई वांट टू चैम्पियन एवरी फिल्म. अगर उस फिल्म को देखने के बाद मुझे कुछ लगता है कि ये सही नहीं बैठा या ये सही नहीं बैठा, तो उसके पीछे एक कॉन्टेक्स्ट है, उसको रीज़न दिया जाता है. और यही एक द फिल्म क्रिटिक दैट यू चूज़ टू लिसन टू, उसमें डिफरेंस यही आपको मिलेगा कि आप उनकी बात सुन रहे हैं और वो बता रहे हैं कारण क्या है उसके पीछे. वो ये नहीं बोल रहे हैं कि ये खराब था, ये गंदा था, 1 2 3 4 सिनेमाटोग्राफी अच्छी थी, एडिटिंग खराब थी, ये अच्छा था, सेट डिज़ाइन अच्छा था. सेट डिज़ाइन अच्छा था तो क्यों, जो फिल्म की कहानी जहाँ जिस शहर में है, एट्सेट्रा एट्सेट्रा, दैट काइंड ऑफ थिंग. सो I think that's what would set criticism apart from, people walking out of a theater saying, हंसी नहीं आई. क्यों नहीं आई हंसी? वो जब कोई बैठने लिखेगा 4-5 घंटे लगाकर कॉन्टेक्स्ट में डालकर.
इट इज़ वेरी डिफिकल्ट आई पर्सनली फील बिकॉज जैसे मैं आपको वेलकम की बात करूँ तो मैंने एक तकिया का नाम लिखा था, भगवान का दिया हुआ सब कुछ है, शोहरत है, दौलत है, इज्जत है, बस एक बहन है, उसकी शादी नहीं हुई, अच्छा ख़ानदान चाहिए. तो मेरी फिल्म के साथ जितने लोग जुड़े हुए थे, मेरे असिस्टेंट, मेरे एक्टर्स, उन्होंने कहा कि इतना बड़ा तकिया कलाम आज तक हमने नहीं सुना है. तो हाँ, नहीं सुना है, लेकिन मुझे लगता था, और ये मुझे ऐसा नहीं है कि मुझे कोई पल्स पता है ऑडियंस का, दिस वॉज माई कन्विक्शन कि नहीं मुझे ये करना है, एंड मैंने किया. और उसके बाद जो है वो आप देखिए आज उसमें डायलॉग जो है, तो वो मुझे लगता है समझना कि क्योंकि आप जो भी गेज कर रहे हैं वो कुछ मिसाल को पहली पिक्चर में ये हुआ था, ये हुआ था, ये हुआ था, इसलिए ये करेक्ट होगा. वो सेम चीज़ जो है दूसरी फिल्म के लिए शायद वो रॉन्ग हो सकती है.
So, Anish ji,
just 1 second, but Raj is being very chup today. This is like so like I had to use.
so
I had
he's
to say
promoting the film.
Yeah.
I'm promoting the film.
He's symbolically, metaphorically, because I'm a critic, I have to use these words. So
you throw in a pun every couple of sentences.
Yeah. So
That's how the headlines are, right?
Yeah.
Can be chup at this film.
Yeah. No, but I just want to ask you, when you have, when you put out a film, do you stay away from like reviews, or do you actively seek out reviews and look at them?
I think I'm a review junkie. I read a lot and I watch a lot of reviews. Of course, I want them to disappear when the film is not working, saying, fuck off, I don't want these reviews. Or when the movie is good, I want to read all the reviews. But I save some of it for later. Like she was saying, that I go back and say, why was that movie so panned? What happened? Really, I really loved it, and a lot of people like it. So I go back later at a better frame of mind to understand what they're saying. For me, why I like reading reviews, there's also another factor. I feel lately, or maybe for a long time, it's also a little bit like an art form. The writing sometimes, or there's an analysis, or just a sentence construction or a certain observation is so good that I want to enjoy reading it. I want to enjoy watching it. In fact, I stop sometimes, call another person, read out a few lines that have encapsulated something very strongly, beautifully, or even negatively. Doesn't matter. Just the way they put it together. So I realize that these few people that I read or listen to or watch, there's a lot of art in it. There's a lot of craft in it. So I give that a lot of weightage. For me, even if it's not my film, other film reviews, I read some of them because I want to see how they're seeing it and also just enjoy the process of reading it. And about Anish ji, my thing is that there is no avoiding critics. We can never avoid critiquing. So anybody will start tomorrow. Let's say all the critics quit tomorrow. Another Twitter, somebody starts, and before you know, there's following for them. So it's going to be part of film. When there's a film, there's a critique. So I think both go hand in hand, and we love them, we hate them. You know, so we want them on our
love
posters.
them when they review a film well. You hate them when they don't.
Yeah. So
I was just saying that when he said finger on the pulse, I don't have, but मेरा conviction था. मुझे लगता है कि इनका conviction ही वो pulse है. Finger on the pulse वो ही है. He is not realizing it, but that is what is. It's all about knowing the pulse of the public.
So, one question to the filmmakers. Do you think that, again, now that social media is doing all the word of mouth, do you think the critics or the reviewers' reviews can make or break a film?
Looks like it cannot break a film that easily, because you've seen mega success films that don't have a lot of critical acclaim. And a lot of critical acclaim films just get an award at an obscure festival and don't make money at all. So every film, the success of a film for me is different. The success of a film is not necessarily box office. For a lot of films, it is. For quite a lot, it's also critical acclaim. For somebody else, it's just people loving it, a bunch of people liking it. So it's the scope of what the filmmaker or the film is set out to look for is the success of the film for me. Because not every a sweet film is being made, and he's never going to expect it to break box office records. That's not the reason why it was made or what he's aspiring to, what he or she is aspiring for. So yeah.
Right. So,
Can I take that one?
yeah.
I genuinely feel no critic, no trade analyst, no reviewer can ever come even close to changing the fate of a film.
Yeah.
Never.
Agreed.
Never.
If you think we have that power,
Exactly. And
Like,
I'll
I'm
tell you with
superhuman right now.
examples what will happen. People read reviews because, as he said, I love reading reviews. Film buffs like some reference, they read it. It's at the back of their mind. Suppose I have reviewed a film badly. A non-film person has read it. A film buff has read it. His parents see the film, or his family sees the film, his kids see the film, his children his wife sees the film, and they come and say it's a wonderful film. Is he ever going to say, no, Komal Nahta said it's not a good film, so I will not see? Of course he will forget what I've said. He will go by the word of mouth. So the word of mouth is important, and whoever thinks that critics or trade analysts can change the fate of a film or can mold public opinion is far removed from reality. We are just doing our job, but we are not so important.
Arey sir, my own parents don't listen to me. They
We are
watch
not-
everything.
we
They're
are not
sitting
so
there, they go
important.
and watch everything I say don't watch. They go watch it. कोई नहीं सुनता हमारी.
At a bigger scale, I understand Komalji's point of view, but I have seen when I was in the US and the Telugu films were coming there, right? There are 3 sites, only 2 at that point, like 7, 10 of them, but 2 were noticed, like people know about them. That guy writes a review that's off. The film doesn't get bookings. People, NRIs don't go. I've seen this happening. That's a strange part of it. In that subsect, I could see a site giving it, they give it in decimals also, 2.25. Film is fucked. So people don't go. There's no tickets being sold. I'm telling you, it's amazing that if you take the track record of those 2-3 sites and look at anything under 2.25, 2.75 is a success. 2.25, people have not gone to theaters there. So, hey, it goes both
I've
ways.
मेरी
always
तरफ से
wondered-
पौने 3 star.
Yeah, I've never understood this. I mean, I can understand, we did away with star ratings at Film Companion when I was there, but I've never understood this 2.75, 3 point,
I think they took the rating system to the next level of accuracy.
Yeah, it's like you're-
84.3%.
Yeah, it's like, you're really, really getting specific out there. It's not just a 2 on 5, it's a 2.25 on 5. Like, so like an extra quarter point is being awarded for some particular merit that nobody knows why. So,
I just wanted to add something, to that previous question. So while I feel that I think reviews may not make a big difference for a film which is, destined for commercial success, I think for smaller films,
Yeah.
which are, which don't have those kind of budgets and stuff in terms of publicity, marketing, they may not be led by very, like the same kind of stars. I think for those kind of films, if a lot of critics give those films good reviews, I think it definitely helps those films. So I don't think that it's like the critics have no role, but I feel like they can definitely help, promote a film, as in like create like a good buzz for a film which otherwise may not have access to, just like a lot of marketing and promotion.
Yeah, that's actually true. I was about to say that speaking of word of mouth, right? When a really small film comes, the word of mouth, there's no enough critical mass for the word of mouth. It's the critics who pretty much it's their job. They end up watching every film out there. And when everybody starts raving about it, not just one critic, let's say, then automatically the people start listening. They're like, why is everybody saying it's a great film? Or they won't even have bothered watching it in the first place. So critics do have the power to make a small film. And
Right.
we've
And also,
personally
like-
experienced it too in our, like, a couple of our small films where the first few weeks were, like, first few days were actually made by good critical reviews. Otherwise, people wouldn't have even have bothered knowing about the film.
Also, if somebody is writing a piece about a film that is authentic and it's coming from a place of love and respect, you're also talking about the film for posterity. We read about older films that came before our time via reviews on reviews that are now converted to books that are on websites that were in print at one point of time. So that is also a role that film criticism plays, is that you are having a conversation around a film that's now a part of history for people to read 10 years later, 20 years later, if we survive climate
Right.
change.
Yeah, and then they talk about that one reviewer who gave a bad review to Memento, and he's going to be shamed for life,
A good film critic will also not shy away from saying that they changed their mind about a
Yeah,
review
that has
that they
happened
wrote.
too once in a while.
Yeah, that happened with Bonnie and Clyde. The Time magazine critic first tore it apart, and then like when the movie suddenly caught on, he went and watched it again, and then kind of, I think it was Jay Cox, the guy who works with Martin Scorsese. So
And there was one story about the Cannes Festival director rejecting Amélie when it came out, and he became infamous for that once that happened.
Right. Now, I have a question for filmmakers. Do you think critics need to have technical knowledge? And I'm going to read out a very favorite quote of mine. This is something that the director George Roy Hill wrote to the critic Pauline Kael, who was a New Yorker critic, after she trashed his blockbuster film Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. So this is what he wrote: "Listen, you miserable bitch." That's how he began the letter, and he said, "You've got every right in the world to air your likes and dislikes, but you have no goddamn right at all to fake at my expense a phony technical knowledge you simply do not have." I'd like you to take this forward.
Now I see where Balki got the basis for this film.
I think a decent base is good, but again, as a critic gets more experience, they also gain a lot of filmmaking techniques and technicalities about it, and hence you respect the person more. Otherwise you have many critics that just mouth off and you don't care for them anymore. So it's really, it's okay. Even we didn't go to film school. It's not like I can't make a film. So you don't have to go to a film school to become a critic either. But it's just a balanced approach and sensibilities that you have. And like somebody just said, you said that you're not trolls. As long as
That's
critics,
Anupama.
and critics don't turn into trolls. The trolling is where it slips sometimes. Again, a human error, I understand. But we've had some reviews from respected big critics that just becomes a bit of trolling. And that's when you kind of start hating that process. Otherwise, it's a very, very love-hate relationship. But then that little trolling, that, venomous little bile that comes out once in a while is where, it'd be nice to hold that back. But then again, everybody is human, so you make mistakes. So.
And, speaking of technical knowledge, I've always thought about this when reading reviews, right? A lot of times, critics do go wrong in when this, sometimes when a film is too long, automatically everybody blames the editing.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a screenplay that's long.
Yeah.
So it's very hard to tell. I mean, as a filmmaker, I can't tell when a film is long. It takes a lot of in-depth thinking and talking to people to figure out where the film faltered. But it's very easily, said, bad editing because the film is too long. It's not that simple to begin with.
I would even extend that to even dialogues. Somebody was recently trolled for dialogues, right? I don't know what the process was, but it's still the director.
You want to name them?
He's my friend. So,
okay.
but still the director is the one that's saying, I want this dialogue.
Yeah,
so, that technical knowledge would really help that person who's working so hard on his craft. He might have been brilliant in another film, so let's give it that. Photography, editing, everything is also under a captain. Or even a studio who's controlling the captain. We don't know. I'm just saying that. So that part of it is a little tough to zero in on one specific person who might have messed up the film, like usually the editor.
yeah.
Editor ki galti hai.
Yeah, because I think there was a video sometime back that went viral that said, that was talking about how editors, the editing could have been crisper. Is a review that you find in almost every review, as if it's like a packet of chips. It's just like the editing could have been crisper. So, when a reviewer does not give your film a good review, let's say it's not even a trolling kind of review. Let's say it's just a very dispassionately written review that says this film has all these things and yet it's not working because of XYZ reasons. How personal does it become? Because filmmaking is such a, like he just said, blood, sweat and tears and all that's happened. So are you able to kind of distance yourself and kind of see that, or are you just looking at the XYZ reasons, it's like it's
not immediately for sure. It takes time, right? I mean, you usually spend a year, 2 years thinking you made this film and you're shitting bricks on the day of the release, and the moment good reviews start coming, you're like, oh yeah, I'm cool, I just made this great film. If there are a lot of good reviews and some bad reviews, you set the bad reviews aside for now and maybe revisit them like a month later when you've gone through this wave. But if there's a lot of bad reviews, then I think it becomes very hard to read them right then. Because first you have to let the emotions go and maybe pick it up like a couple of months later and say, okay, now let me see what went wrong back then. Otherwise, it's too fresh. The wounds are
so
too
you're
fresh.
saying when you have some distance from the film as well?
Yeah, you need time to do that. You can't do that on the Friday of your release. Impossible. You're hoping the critic is wrong and everybody else will prove him wrong.
I think
on Saturday.
I was going to keep my mic away and not talk anymore, but the summary is everything is personal. When people say, no, don't take it personally, it is fucking personal. Everything is personal. In the movies also, they shoot somebody and say, listen, man, it's not personal. Danda hai. I said, fuck you, it's personal. It's always personal. You just bottle it up.
So, Anu, you've been very silent. I think you should give us some words of wisdom.
I want to say, but Raj, the truth is, for people like us, we do what we do because we love the movies, right? My whole life, my whole adult life has been about watching movies and talking about movies and sitting like in the trenches of Hindi cinema and just reporting on what's happening. So for me, movies are personal, right? So when it's a bad film, I'm shattered. Like I take it very, like, I feel very bad. When I see something really terrible, I remember there was one film, I can't remember. It was just one of those really bad ones, which aren't even so bad that they're good.
Comedy film.
नहीं sir, आपकी picture नहीं थी. और वो शुरू हुई रात के 9 बजे. मैं 12 बजे घर जा रही हूँ इतनी गंदी पिक्चर देख के, और बारिश में I've left my kids. I'm like, what is my life? I'm just going to age watching bad films, right? So I do take it personally, and which is perhaps
No, which is the
where
part
it
you
comes
take
from.
personally? Your aging or the
bad part.
The bad part.
Aging का तो कुछ नहीं कर सकते यार.
I agree. It is a personal thing for the reviewers too, for the critics too, for the audience. They can come and give you the worst possible bad words, and they can. It's it's their right to. So I'm saying critic. That's what I'm saying. You cannot tell what a critic should not say. Back to that point, it's personal to them. I said, why would you waste my time? And what did you do? And also, especially somebody you like and you think last film was good. What happened to you? What the fuck happened to you? So it is personal to everybody. Films are the most personal things in our lives.
Right.
In most of them.
Like even you as a filmmaker, like you go watch a movie, you're likely to come back home and call somebody and say, that was a bloody piece of shit, It's like, you're not, except that it's not being published outside. And if you probably meet the filmmaker, you'll say, wow, that was really amazing movie.
We used to have two terms when we come out of a film and you don't know what to say now. Because, personally you said to Sucharita, like, fuck, what the fuck was that?
And like,
Then you come out and say,
great
Costume was
locations,
amazing.
amazing costumes.
No. Or there is a
code.
So sometimes, what
That's
do you
the
do?
code.
Like,
So
you
if you
pick
say
something.
amazing costumes, that's
amazing
like...
that you say, that was a film.
It was a film.
You say, you
are
did it
euphemisms.
again.
Euphemisms.
No, but I also think that this conversation is only focusing on the negatives. Like when we like a film, we go out of our way to like dance and tweet and promote and share over and over again. Anu runs a whole platform which is for celebration of films. The agenda behind the platform is to celebrate the movies that we produce in our country. And when a movie is good that we like on our personal... Film criticism is not news. We're not delivering news. Everyone is writing from their own lived experience of life, what their interests are, who they are as people. And when something feels right to us that we want more people to see, we will share it over and over again. After the film is done, it's come and gone. We will sit with the directors, do interviews with the directors, analyze the film so more people can understand the joy that films bring to us also, and that we want to spread to everyone who's also perhaps not had chance to watch the film yet. तो अच्छी बातें भी होती हैं.
अच्छी बात
It is
होती है,
not
वो
just
बहुत
bad
अच्छा
stuff.
लगता है।
नहीं,
Yeah,
अच्छी बात
होती है,
होती है, but
yeah.
there's like stars bleeding out there. So I was like, trying to get
ये
to
बहुत
the general more of the
And we take all the achhi baat for granted. I'm like, of course, I'm a cool
अच्छी-
filmmaker.
हाँ,
Yeah.
अच्छी
Of
बात
Of course, सबको मेरा interview
Otherwise,
चाहिए.
what did the guy say? You bitch. What did he say?
Yeah.
Right?
You
The bad
miserable
review, that's what it
bitch.
is.
That's
नहीं,
what
अच्छी-
it is.
अच्छी बातें जो है ना बहुत अच्छी लगती है। और मुझे लगता है कि अगर आप फिल्मों को बहुत प्यार करते हैं, सिर्फ इतना रीज़न मुझे नहीं लगता कि कंप्लीट है, क्योंकि मैं ऐसे बहुत लोगों को जानता हूँ जो फिल्मों से बहुत प्यार करते हैं एंड दे हैव अ ज़ीरो नॉलेज ऑफ फिल्म। अगर उनसे बात करें क्यों अच्छी लगी, नहीं बस बहुत अच्छी है, बट वाई, तो वो सिर्फ फिल्मों से प्यार है इसीलिए हम बहुत अच्छा क्रिटिसाइज कर सकते हैं या लिख सकते हैं।
Sure,
मुझे
नहीं,
लगता है
वो-
दैट इज़
वो
नॉट
is-
इनफ,
no, no, not
क्योंकि
at all.
मैंने ऐसी बहुत फिल्में देखी हैं जिसमें लोगों ने उन फिल्मों की बहुत बुराई की। मैं ये नहीं कहूँगा कि सारे लोग, उसमें से कुछ लोगों की मैं बहुत इज्जत करता हूँ और कुछ अच्छी चीज़ें लगती हैं तो मैं सीखना भी चाहता हूँ, लेकिन मुझे पर्सनली लगता है कि 90%, 95% जो लोग लिख रहे हैं वो शायद अपने यूज़र्स को आज की तारीख में खुश करने के लिए लिख रहे हैं
Pandering.
और अपना एक व्यूवरशिप बढ़ाने के लिए, फॉर मनी, फॉर उनका पैसा, वो बहुत सारे रीजंस है अलावा इसके कि भाई फिल्मों से हमें प्यार है। इसलिए कि ये एक बहुत मेहनत से फिल्में जो बनाई होती है, अगर उन फिल्मों को नुकसान होता है किसी की इस तरह लिखने से, तो मुझे पर्सनली लगता है कि वो बहुत ही अजीब सा लगता है मुझे।
तो कल ही का न्यूज़ है, ये तमिल फिल्म इंडस्ट्री के बारे में है। तो द प्रोड्यूसर्स जस्ट सेड कि जब एक फिल्म रिलीज़ होती है तो तभी रिव्यू मत लिखो, 3 दिन के बाद लिखो, बिकॉज कम से कम ऑफिशियली कुछ नहीं आएगा, जो भी होगा ट्विटर में होगा, वर्ड ऑफ माउथ होगा, ऑल दैट काइंड ऑफ स्टफ विल हैपन, बट ऑफिशियल रिव्यूज़ जो होंगे वो 3 दिन के बाद आएंगे। डू थिंक
पहले ऐसे होता था?
नहीं, वो पहले बिकॉज मीडिया इतना ऐसा डिफरेंट था ना।
That's like changing the definition of journalism. A journalist's job is to give tomorrow's news today. This implies you're giving today's passy news 3 days later. It
Right.
just changes
It
the
won't-
definition of journalism.
So you're saying it's
it
not
has
gonna work.
absolutely no merits. Absolutely.
Right. So when when the like Aniji just said, when there are films that are released and a lot of people are now looking at reviewing as a mode of self promotion. Not, I mean, they're not saying कि picture अच्छी है बुरी है वो नहीं कह रहे हैं. They're just looking at it as a mode of like how can I troll this film in the best possible way so that like I sound very witty and कि लोग पसंद करेंगे, because see today I mean there's no doubt about it, negativity sells, right? I mean the more negative you are, people come to see you than if you write a good positive review. That's inevitable. I mean that's the way the world is. So how do you see that? It's like
I think the honest journalist, जैसे लोग बोल रहे थे ना कि मुझे बहुत मोहब्बत है फिल्मों से, that is not enough. You have to be in love with films and you have to be in love with your readers, viewers, whoever. You have to be in love with them. You have to say that every person who's going to read my review or watch my review and decide whether he wants to see the film, I owe it to that person to be honest to the best of my ability. मर जाऊं तो मैं झूठ नहीं बोलूंगा. I can go wrong. That should be, only that person can be a critic or a reviewer or a trade analyst, because otherwise इतने सारे reviews है, you owe something to your readers, to your viewers. They are looking up to you कि क्या बोल रही है अनुपमा, क्या बोल रही है सुचारिता, क्या बोल रहा है कोमल. That honesty and integrity is more important than anything else. Love for cinema हो जाएगा. But probably we sitting here, at least I can talk for myself, I don't know nothing except films. I'm a zero in life, in every other sphere of life. You talk about politics, I can't talk for more than 5 minutes. Cricketers, मुझे मालूम भी नहीं कौन है हमारी cricket team में. I can't recognize one cricketer from the other. The only I'm a chartered accountant by qualification. I don't know figures. I don't know figures. The only figures I understand is film figures. So I'm saying, it has to be that love for cinema coupled with the promise you make to yourself that my readers are my whole and soul. उससे मुझे कितना पैसा मिलता है, नहीं मिलता है, that will follow if you're honest. Honesty cannot go in waste, cannot just, it can't go just waste. You will get money. And कौन से डॉक्टर ने या कौन से भगवान से हमने लिखवा के लाए हैं कि मुझे इतना ही कमाना है. आपकी जो वर्थ है उतना आप कमाएंगे. So for trolling or for your aim can't be at somebody else's expense. Your aim can't be कि मुझे कितनी followers मिलते हैं, मुझे कितने likes मिलते हैं. Personally I'm saying I never bother to read the comments, because if I write bad, I know I'm going to get a lot of people saying, fantastic, you have the guts. But what do y'all know? Y'all are just trolling me or giving me the thumbs up because y'all have an axe to grind. I don't have any axe to grind.
सर आपको तो नाम ट्रेंड हो जाता है ट्विटर पे, 5 मिनट नहीं लगते एक ट्वीट के बाद. हैशटैग कोमल नाटा ट्रेंडिंग.
No, it's you have to be honest. That is the bottom line.
I had something which is a bit of an aside, like because going to your original question of, how do we feel about, what critics say? I think that it is important for critics to, that's my personal opinion, for critics to have some sense of an idea about the intent of the film and some sort of education. I don't mean like a course necessarily, because, I have found a lot of misogynist kind of reviews as well, where you feel like they're not understanding, which is why it's so important for...
Preach!
Yeah. They're not... I remember for my first film, Turning 30, I had some really... very, very misogynist things said about it. It's fine that people liked the film or didn't like the film, but people saying like, why is the female protagonist, why is she spooning the guy, and like all kinds of weird things which are basically reflective of a certain mindset that doesn't understand what the life of a woman can be. So sometimes I think that it is important for critics to have a sense of a perspective that is a bit larger where they can see what the film is trying to say, where it's coming from. And sometimes there are films that are, of a more alternative perspective, because those kind of films, there is not that kind of history of those kind of films and those kind of voices. So I think every film can't be judged in the same way. So I think those kind of conversations are important, because I think films are also like a sort of mirror to society, and a sort of like a critique and a sort of challenge to the status quo at many times. So I think it's also important to be able to see sometimes the larger context of a film, and basically not, like, sometimes I think like people are not understanding where the film is coming from and what it's saying. Not to say that that makes it a great film, but sometimes to be criticized because, you're like the perspective of the person criticizing it is misogynist. I think that is also like something that I have experienced.
To Alankrita's point, Brie Larson, right, Oscar winner, she enters the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and one of the things she says, an offhand comment in an interview, is that we need more female film critics, because most of the film critics are men, straight white men in American who are writing, and that pissed people off so bad that they went to IMDb and downvoted the film before it released to like some 1 point or 2 points and things like that. So film criticism is not IMDb ratings or 2 stars or 3 stars. You're also people who are, like Alankrita said, looking at a film with the intent that it is made, who is making it, what is the context behind the film, what is the process of the filmmaker, and a little bit like who is the filmmaker, what they've made before, what is are they referencing other filmmakers, etc., that kind of thing. It's so bringing fresher voices into film criticism also is where I think that we are headed and should be headed as well.
What you just spoke about is, it's like, I think it's a trend that's picking up, right? The whole concept of review bombing. Like groups of people have gone en masse and started downgrading a film. And I think in a situation like that, it's more important than ever before to have some trusted voices, like some critics who, even if suddenly on IMDb the film is showing 2 because it's been review bombed, you're looking at all these critics that you trust, and they're all saying good things about the movie. So I think it becomes more important now than even before, I feel, in present day scenario, to have honest, knowledgeable, respected voices speaking about a film.
Right. So I think we'll take a few questions from the audience. And yes, sir.
बिल्कुल आपकी बात सही है, लेकिन जो ज़िम्मेदार क्रिटिक्स हैं, जो बहुत कम हैं, कई लोग हैं जो बहुत ही खूबसूरती से, बहुत ही नाप तोल कर लिखते हैं, लेकिन ये जिस तरह के लोगों की आप बात कर रहे हैं, ये बहुत ज़्यादा लोग हो गए हैं, और वो सिर्फ, मैंने पहले जैसे कहा कि अपने यूज़र्स बढ़ाने के लिए और उनकी लाइकिंग बढ़ाने के लिए इस तरह पर, ये एक तरह से नाटक जो चल रहा है, नाटक करते हैं ये, तो वो इसीलिए कर रहे हैं कि भाई वो अपने अपने जो बात कर रहे हैं और उनके यूज़र्स बढ़ जाएं। और तो मुझे नहीं लगा, लोग बहुत ज़्यादा देखते हैं, लेकिन शायद आपको ये पता नहीं कि लोग इसलिए भी देखते हैं कुछ लोगों को कि यार इसको देख के बड़ा मज़ा आएगा, हंसेंगे, तो फिल्म के बारे में उतना समझना और सीखना नहीं चाहते हैं, और वो जानना नहीं चाहते हैं कि भाई ये इसके क्या ओपिनियन है फिल्म के बारे में, वो क्या बोल रहा है उस पर हंसना चाहते हैं। मैं ऐसा मानता हूँ। कई हमारे ऐसे लोग हैं जिनको, मेरे कई दोस्त हैं जो बोलते हैं, मैंने बोला क्यों देखते हो यार इनको, बोले यार बहुत मज़ा आता है, इनको बहुत हंसी आती है हमको, तो बोले आपकी जो फिल्मों में कॉमेडियंस होते हैं उनसे थोड़ा ज़्यादा अच्छा करते हैं लोग।
One thing I want to say is that I think that there are a lot of people who get into film criticism because it's considered glamorous and because your name gets out there, but they don't like films. I mean, they don't like Hindi films. They like, or they don't like Tamil films. Or they like English films, you know. So if somebody uses a technique in an Indian film, they treat it a different way. But if the same technique is used in a Hollywood film or a European film or something like that, they look at it differently. So I'm like, I think a cynicism has crept into the way people approach movies, you know. Oh, this is going to be a bad movie. I don't know why I'm wasting my time even going to this movie, but I have to review this movie, so I'm just going to go to this movie and review it. So when you go in with that mindset, then you're automatically kind of like pre-programming yourself to dislike the film. And I think that's happening a lot these days. So just wanted to add that. So, yeah. You have a question.
Justin here from Indian Express. My question is to all the filmmakers on stage, Alankrita, Anis. So towards your right, here. Yeah. My question is to all the filmmakers on stage, Alankrita, Anisa, Rajan DK. What are some of the worst lines or paragraphs from a bad review of your film that has stayed with you? Something so nasty that you felt like speechless.
I don't know. I don't remember.
They'll take off their shirts. It's tattooed.
I wish I'm glad I don't remember those. But the only I can't. Can you?
या मुझे एक याद है
कितने सुनने हैं बता
वेलकम का जो रिव्यू का आया था कि ये फिल्म जब शुरू होती है तो ऐसा लगता है कि ऑडियंस के पास एक आदमी खड़ा हुआ है जो स्क्रू ड्राइवर लेके उनके दिमाग में धीरे धीरे स्क्रू डाल रहा है और जैसे जैसे फिल्म बढ़ती जाती है वो स्क्रू आपके दिमाग में घुसता चला जाता है. तो ये मुझे बड़ी अच्छी लाइन लगी थी, तो ये याद है मुझे. ये मैं कहीं डालूंगा डायलॉग.
Alankrita, for you and Rajan DK, come on, there must be some line.
I remember that spooning line that has just stayed with me. Where they were like, why does Gul Panag's character spooning Purab's character? I think it just has stayed with me because I thought it was so odd and why that, like lots of, yeah.
I have a question for the former critic sitting next to me, actually. I'm just curious, has he gone over to the dark side or was he on the dark side and has gone over to the light side? What is he? This is Raja Sen, who is a co-writer on Chup, who's a former famous critic. Wow. I'm really curious. Has he moved to the dark side or have you moved to the bright side?
I think it's up to all of you now to see what we've done and to see if that's the right move for me or whether I need to go back and figure out better how to judge what I'm doing.
Hi, this is Priyanka. My question is to all the filmmakers. Bollywood bashing has become quite fashionable these days, on the internet especially. With the numbers throwing in that the flop picture hai, bekar picture hai. So as filmmakers, do you sometimes get a sense, or does it get difficult for you to discern which critic is coming from a space of just criticizing the film, or does it, or coming from a space of really an agenda to, push this boycott Bollywood or bash Bollywood or ban Bollywood propaganda which is going on? Or do you also get a sense of that this is paid? Because these are the things that we keep hearing.
By now, everybody, most of the people who are not just filmmakers, even audience who are clued in, they all know who's saying what and why. So you kind of pick and choose. You want for entertainment, you watch the funny guy from whoever, the YouTube guy who's generally fakifying, and you listen to it and laugh. And you want a good one, you go to somebody else. So you kind of know where each one is coming from. You're discerning right then and there. So I think it's okay. I mean, people talk, and already it's a paid review. You paid the article. Or, so for me, it doesn't matter. And I feel like a lot of people, it shouldn't matter really. You pick and choose what you want to see. What kind of news you want to follow, what kind of people you want to follow is what I feel.
This one is addressed to the critics. Any one of them or all three of them can answer, four of them can answer. Do film critics have favorites? And if they do, how easy or how difficult it is to distance themselves from that favorite while reviewing a film.
Yeah, everyone has favorites in the sense that I like watching this particular filmmaker's work because she is an exciting filmmaker, and I want to see what they're doing next. I'm looking forward to seeing what they're doing next. But having said that, professionally, when you watch the film and you walk out of the film and you assemble your thoughts, you do your research, you know, everybody's process is different. For a professional film critic, it's not very difficult to acknowledge your biases first and then उसके बाद आप लिखें जो आप लिखना चाह रहे हैं और कहें उसको अपनी ऑनेस्टी से। कोमल से कहते हैं ऑनेस्टी से लिखना पड़ेगा और उसके अलावा कोई चारा नहीं है। मुझे अलंकृता का काम बहुत पसंद है, मैं बहुत एक्साइटेड हूँ उनकी सारी फिल्में देखने के लिए। वो फीमेल फिल्म मेकर है, अपनी कहानियाँ कहती हैं, पर जब मुझे उनका काम पसंद नहीं आता तो उसको क्यों पसंद नहीं आया उसको भी कॉन्टेक्चुअलाइज करना इम्पॉसिबल काम नहीं है, वो हो जाता है ऑनेस्टी के साथ। जितने आप प्रोफेशनल हो उस पर निर्भर करता है, आई थिंक।
I had one more question. I had a question for the critics,
Would
if I could
Anupama add
ask,
to that?
please.
I think Balki wants to give the closing words.
Then that's fine.
Yeah, Chup.
हो गया बस, डन।
एक
Thank
सवाल
you,
मैं हिंदी में
Emma.
पूछना चाहता हूँ।
जी।
एक हिंदी फिल्म का आप लोग कर रहे हैं, यहाँ पर डिबेट हो रही है, और अनीस भाई का बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद कि इन्होंने हिंदी में भी थोड़ा सी बीच में बातचीत की।
मुझे हिंदी आती भाई।
और तो मुझे एक सवाल, दो सवाल थे एक्चुअली। एक तो ये सवाल कि जब हिंदी फिल्म के ऊपर एक सेमिनार हो रहा है, उसमें कोई हिंदी फिल्म समीक्षक आपके मंच पर क्यों नहीं है? दूसरा सवाल मैं फिल्मकारों से पूछना चाहता हूँ कि अगर कोई फिल्म समीक्षक आपकी फिल्म की समीक्षा, फिल्म खराब हो सकता है उसकी वजह से लिखे या कोई और भी कारण हो सकता है, बाद में जब वो आपका इंटरव्यू कभी लेने आता है, क्या मन में वो खलिश तब भी रहती है?
मैं थोड़ा इसका जवाब दूं।
जी कोमल जी।
मैं रिव्यूज़ अंग्रेज़ी में लिखता हूँ क्योंकि मैगज़ीन फिल्म इंफॉर्मेशन अंग्रेज़ी में है, अभी ऑनलाइन है, मगर मेरे यूट्यूब वीडियोस और मेरा यूट्यूब चैनल हिंदी का है, तो मैं बोलता हिंदी
नहीं, आपने कहा कि आप ट्रेड एनालिस्ट हैं, फिल्म क्रिटिक नहीं है। मैं फिल्म क्रिटिक की बात कर रहा था।
मुझे फिल्म रिव्यूअर के तौर पर बुलाया, मैं फिल्म मेकर नहीं हूँ, तो मेरा पोजीशन यहाँ पर फिल्म रिव्यूअर का ही है।
नहीं, आपने खुद कहा था, इसलिए मैंने सवाल पूछा।
इसलिए मैंने जवाब।
हाँ। जी बताएं। नहीं, जवाब तो देने दो यार।
सवाल क्या है?
सवाल ये है कि कोई फिल्म समीक्षक जब आपकी फिल्म की समीक्षा अच्छी नहीं लिखता है और वो जब आपका इंटरव्यू लेने आता है कुछ दिन बाद, तो आपके मन में कोई दुर्भावना होती है क्या?
खलिश होती है मन में?
नहीं, मैं
ऐसा होता है कि इंटरव्यू पहले ले लेते हैं।
Of course. Sorry, my problem is I would love to. I mean,
should I ask the question in English?
नहीं, हिंदी समझ में आती है।
We'll accuse you.
मेरी हिंदी इतनी अच्छी नहीं है क्योंकि मैं भी इंडिया में हूँ लेकिन डिफरेंट स्टेट में से, सो वहाँ से हिंदी इतना पढ़ाई नहीं की हमने, लेकिन इतना सीखा मैंने फ्रेंड्स से, सो नॉट अ प्रॉब्लम। I do. I mean, if there was an agenda or a bitterness or a certain personal feeling that has come into a review for no good reason, I do remember that one reviewer for a while, and I gave up after that because there's no use in keeping bitterness, because I realized later it was done because of a certain specific personal feeling. That's just one odd. कभी होता है, but you can take him seriously after that, him or her later seriously. So होता है. Sorry about my bad हिंदी.
जी, मेरा नाम संजय मिश्रा है और कोमल सर से मेरे को ये जानना था। देखिए, इस बातचीत को थोड़ी दिलचस्प बनाते हैं क्योंकि हम क्रिटिक की बात करें। सर कभी
चलिए अभी ये लास्ट कमाल था।
Once more.
I think I peed my pants a little.